Like last year's Persona 3, Persona 4 is the exception to the rule for Japanese RPGs. The battles are still fought turn by turn, but there's no evil empire and you're not on an epic quest to save the world. Persona gets away from the familiar fantasy grind and puts you into high school, where your relationships and personal motivations are as important and compelling as your battles.
Yuki-chan's in danger! Help someone!
Persona 4's setup is different, and definitely a little bit strange. As a Japanese high school student who's been sent to live in a rural town, you become involved in a series of bizarre murders. The occult twist is that these murders are taking place inside an alternate dimension, which you access by staring into your television at midnight on a rainy day. And that the main character and later his allies are able to summon a persona, a powerful supernatural other self. It's a little bit out there, but it works thanks to its paranormal hook, rich setting, and memorable characters providing depth and interest. You'll experience a linear series of major plot points as you go, but there's room to define your experience since you choose what you do and who you hang out with on a daily basis. The cast of characters is interesting and memorable, carrying some pretty interesting baggage you'll uncover as you get to know them. You'll also frequently express yourself through dialogue choices, letting you personally invest in the game through the otherwise silent main character.
It's so freaking nasty, I can't even swallow it!
After you've settled into your new home in Inaba and discovered that there's a mystery to be solved, 2 basic commitments will propel you through the game. You'll have to go to school Monday to Saturday, except holidays, and you're obligated to climb through a television into the other world to save would-be victims from turning up dead in the real world, which turns out to be pretty cool and balances having to go to school on the weekend. Each victim is confined to their own unique multi-part area of the other world, essentially turning each one into a dungeon to crawl through before facing a final showdown. You'll track the weather day by day, and if fog rolls in before you've rescued the victim, the game will end and you'll be sent back a week for a chance to do it all differently. While you're duty-bound to the classroom and the dungeon, you actually have a lot of leeway to go about your life as you want. After school and on your days off, you have access to a map of your local stomping grounds where you can visit different locations such as the shopping district or the riverbed. Various activities are available in each area, which can increase aspects of your personality, like courage and diligence, which are needed to forge certain friendships and participate in certain activities. You can find your friends hanging out in various places depending on their schedule. The deadline of saving the next victim makes time management important, but it's flexible enough so that it adds tension without feeling restrictive. Hanging out with friends can be entertaining, but you have an ulterior motive. Well, 2 if you count getting friendly with cute anime girls. Each major character is aligned with a tarot card that represents a type of persona. When your relationships level up, you're able to create more powerful personas within that type. Getting closer to your allies also makes them more useful in battle, unlocking special abilities that can really help you out in a pinch. Whether you're interested in learning more about the characters, maximizing your battle potential, or both, the social system is enjoyable and tightly binds the life sim and the battle mechanics of the game together. Making life a bit more interesting, set events pop up regularly to prevent drudgery from setting in. School trips, phone calls, and other unique events provide stimulating unpredictability. When you hit a major milestone, such as saving a victim, you typically have some spare time to chill, catch up on your studies, or head straight back into the television world in search of rare materials and more experience. Persona 4's design is structured yet still flexible enough for just about any player to stay hooked through its absolutely massive quest. Things can get pretty rough in TV land. Each dungeon is randomly generated each time you climb in, meaning you never know what's around the next corner. And groups of enemies attack on sight and can take you out if you give them the opportunity. Battles are fairly numerous, and the somewhat restrictive camera angle can make them tough fights to avoid. But a fast pace and a deep, challenging combat system keeps things interesting. Fighting in Persona 4 is more complex and interesting than the typical RPG pattern of attack, heal, and attack again. Both enemies and your own personas have widely variable strengths and weaknesses, and their methods of attack include numerous status ailments that work on enemies just as well as they work on you. Poison is poison, but anyone hit with enervation has every stat cut in half, which is definitely no joke in RPG land. With no single dominant tactic, experimentation is rewarding and fun. The absolute basic strategy is to find an enemy's weakness and exploit it. Attacking a weakness does big damage and knocks down the target, putting them in a vulnerable state and giving the attacker another turn. Ideally, you'll kill your enemies flat out or knock them all down for the opportunity to execute a cartoonish but deadly all-out attack, dogpiling on the enemies for mega damage. After battle, you have a chance to pick up new Persona cards or trigger powerful effects that can significantly help or hinder your current run. Of course, you don't start with this huge variety of death dealing, you'll have to work your way up. Personas themselves gain levels as you fight, but you make the big leaps in power by combining them using the fusion system. 2 or more personas can blend to form a new deity, potentially inheriting skills and dramatically increasing in power. Bonuses and intricacies to the system, as well as the sheer number of mythological gods and demons collected in the game's compendium, make fusion itself as deep and compelling as the combat. A stable of carefully crafted persona can make all the difference in a difficult battle. Battles are a big feature in any RPG, but your day-to-day life is just as important to your success. With friends to hang out with, school exams that can make or break your reputation, extracurricular activities, and part-time jobs, there's a lot to do. There's a certain degree of randomness and luck as well, but as long as you're doing something with your time, you don't have to sweat too much. You can't go dungeon diving and make social calls in the same day, but each decision you make yields noticeable progress. So while there's a lot to level up, there's really not much of a grind, and it's very unlikely you'll screw up so badly you won't be able to progress. Many activities have multiple benefits, and there are a certain number of gimmies to keep you rewarded and on the right track. The PlayStation 2 hardware is no longer cutting edge, but that doesn't keep Persona 4's presentation from being incredibly sharp. A stylish and colorful vibe sets the series apart from just about anything else, including Persona 3. Menus and transitions are slick and modern, and the entire game has a subtle TV aesthetic. The combination of high-quality 2D art with simple but highly stylized 3D graphics helps maximize the distinct appeal. Some minor assets from the recent Persona 3 have been reused, but it doesn't detract from the overall quality. Likewise, the randomly generated dungeons still specialize in fairly basic corridors and passageways, but each dungeon at least has a unique visual theme, and enemies that relate to the troubled psyche of the victim. Persona 4 also has its own sound. Think catchy J-pop with a lot of English lyrics, making for a uniquely foreign experience that holds up to repeated listening. Comparable to an anime dub, the cartoony and exaggerated delivery of the voice actors suits the world and characters.
What, so someone's killing people with the TV? What is he, beating them to death?
And while there's some clever writing and genuine emotion, melodrama and silliness are both part of the package. Crosstalk during battles shows off some convincing team spirit, even if certain phrases are repeated too often.
What? More of them? Gee!
It's wacky at times, but Persona 4's presentation definitely stands out in a good way. Persona 4 is a well-crafted game dense with content that achieves a compelling balance between traditional RPG dungeon crawling and, shockingly, what can actually be considered role-playing. In its 60-plus hours, you'll experience a tight, well-structured story, and the liberty to freely develop characters and progress at your own discretion. Whether you play RPGs for the battle, story, or beefy playtime, Persona 4 will pull you in.